Like, I want to express like the doubt, the immense confusion. What is an invoice? How do taxes work? Where do I find clients? Acknowledge that we live in a very fucked up system, and it's not just as simple as do you want to or do you not want to. It's not just making art. Hello everyone, my name is Buffie. I'm a freelance illustrator and graphic recorder based in Berlin, Germany. Let's talk about how do I start an art career. This is my mic now. It's my fabric scissor. I'm gonna talk about what an art career is. I'm going to talk about my journey so far as a person who is just at the beginning of their art career, and then my thoughts of how to move forward after that. Grab your tea, open your sketchbook. You can put this on in the background and let's have a little chat. I'm making this video because I think often the videos, the advice, the post, the courses we see and we take in are from artists who are already at, I would say, their mid-career or the peak of their career. They are making consistent income, they have a built-in audience, they are selling their work, they have a consistent routine, a creative outlet, and I feel like that is not the experience of the majority of artists I know, or maybe only speaking for me, that is not my current experience. Yeah, so first let's talk about art career as a concept. I don't know what a formal definition of a career is, but from my understanding, it is like a slow build, a long-term project, if you will, of how you are going to make money or make a living in the world. Jobs can be thought of in terms of years, and careers can be thought of in terms of decades and a human lifetime. And I think the association with, of course, money, capitalist productivity, and prestige is quite strong, because usually people don't use the term career for other areas of life where there is still work and labor present. For example, raising children, taking care of the household, managing your health as a disabled person, and all of which can feel like a full-time job, has the amount of work of a full-time job, and also take decades or a human lifetime, but it's not labeled as a career per se. Decades of blue-collar jobs also tend to be downplayed and not referred to as a proper career. When we talk about art careers, we also look at our celebrity artists, like of course actors and musicians in the limelight, or multi-millionaire writers and poets. We also use the term art career for our celebrity status painters and craftsmen, such as Banksy, Yoshimoto Nara, or Ai Weiwei, or Yayoi Kusama. But while I do love discussing abstract concepts and how capitalism and language shape our experiences, I would also like to now focus more on the personal and the everyday life, the how and the whens of having an art career. So I do have the stereotypical story of the person who has always been drawing and using scrap paper to draw in middle school, and discovering anime, drawing fan art, and posting it on DeviantArt and all that fun mid-2000s stuff. I kind of started having an idea about becoming a professional illustrator artist around middle school, and then got more a bit serious about that in high school. And then I decided to go to a university and I studied a bit of design, but then switched to and graduated with an illustration major. Art for me is definitely a passion, and I feel like it is in my blood, but I also chose to have an art career out of a practicality almost, because I felt like, okay, this is a skill I'm relatively good at. Everyone tells me I'm relatively good at it. And isn't that sort of what a job is you get paid to do something you are relatively good at or can be trained to become good at it. Then after graduation, I spent a year looking for work, both in the creative industries, but also in general, because I have a lot of other skills such as project management, team leadership, like building organizational systems, meetings, note takings, like executive skills and stuff. But to no successes. I had some interviews, but they didn't work out, and I couldn't do a lot of free work because I needed something to apply for a visa. So finally, after a year, I decided to double down on my original plan to become an artist and applied for a freelance visa. And I want to give a big caveat and disclaimer here that I am only able to do all of this because I have the financial support of my mother. I do not make enough money for a living, and I am so beyond grateful, and this is a massive privilege that I have that I know not everyone have, to when they even consider an art career. And I just want to acknowledge that, and acknowledge that we live in a very fucked up system, and it's not just as simple as do you want to or do you not want to. And I assume a lot of people, how do I build an art career, will be massively different from mine. Back to my story, when I was in middle school, I thought I was going to be a concept artist because that was what was more popular in the Vietnamese art scene at that moment in time. And then I kind of held that belief and goal until in high school I discovered more fields of art and illustration, and in university I thought editorial illustration and children's book illustration might be more for me. But as I did it more, I did a few projects, and I realized I'm not particularly good at that kind of storytelling art. I did not enjoy that art style I was leaning into. I'm not saying I will never do those things again. It's just not my focus in the moment. And when I decided to apply for my freelance visa, the thing that I really decided that I was going to give an honest try is graphic recording. I discovered graphic recording in around university time, and I thought it was very suitable for me because I like working in high pressure environments. I can take in a lot of information and process a lot of information at once, and I can process both textual information inside my head and output that as visual information. I also like learning, I like going to different events, and I thought that would be a good focus for me, and it is still my current focus. Additionally, I also do small illustration projects, either for private individuals or small groups, apps. One of my other frequent job is I teach art workshops for children. I teach comic workshops, stickers, how to draw in like a manga style, and so on and so forth. And that's also a more consistent part of my income. So to recap, current career focus and income is graphic recording, illustration, short-term illustration projects, teaching workshops, and potentially maybe products. I do not make anywhere near a full-time income yet, and I don't even make enough to pay tax. And this is kind of one of my biggest dilemma, is how do I arrive to a full-time income? As mentioned before, I am physically disabled with a chronic, energy limiting chronic illnesses, and I also have neurodivergencies and a lot of chronic pain and a lot of chronic problems that affect how I make art and how I have to spend my days. And I also need to do things like go to physiotherapy, to occupational therapy, and go to doctor appointments quite often. And a lot of art career advice I notice tends to presume, a lot of career and productivity advice in general tends to presume an amount of able-bodiedness or able-mindedness. Of course, some of the advice is helpful regardless, but other advice kind of evoke a sense of, and this is a bit bleak, but sometimes I hear those advice and it evokes a sense of desperation or ickiness or kind of grief, like big sad grief inside of me. Obviously it's not these people's fault. We as consumer of content, we have to filter what works for us and what doesn't. But for example, to my question and my problem of how do I arrive at a full-time income, at financial independence, currently for me there are no like part-time day jobs that does not require some form of physical labor or being in a physical location, which are often inaccessible. And or if it is like mental labor, I don't know how I can have the energy to come home, draw, write cold emails to clients, make product pictures and like scan my work and do all like the things that having a job as an artist entails. Like it's not just making art. But yeah, for someone with energy limiting conditions, it's not as simple as, hey, just do this job and then I know you get tired when you get home, but you gotta pull yourself by your bootstrap and make some art, and then you can build your career parallelly to your other job. And like I said before, a lot of advice for artists online or in blog posts, articles, books tend to be from artists who already make some kind of consistent income, have some kind of audience, but that's like, of course, the norm in online content is survivorship bias. We only see the people who quote unquote make it because of our algorithm and stuff like that. We don't tend to see videos or TikToks or articles or books about people who decided to quit an art career and dedicate themselves to something else. That's why I want to make this video, to discuss my journey and my feelings, partly for the bigger library of art content, but also for myself as a kind of video diary of the feelings I'm having right now. So I want to talk about the feelings of being at the beginning of an art career, specifically like a freelance illustrator or graphic recorder. I want to express like the doubt, the immense confusion that comes with it. What kind of visa do I need? What is an invoice? How do taxes work? Where do I find clients, and how do you network when you spend a lot of your days in bed and a lot of like events are not in a language you're comfortable with or are not wheelchair accessible. But it's also the feeling of being called towards many disciplines. It's like graphic recording, but also illustration and painting and making products and teaching art workshops and making videos and TikToks and filming process videos and sketchbooking and, you know, textile arts and etc, etc, etc. Like how much creating a niche is necessary and how much does diversifying your income, your interests is really sustainable. And speaking of making money, like how do I separate the failures and rejections in the realm of making money, getting clients, from my own judgments about my skills and my art? I think at this point I just read the stuff that I wrote. Do I spend my limited energy in administrative tasks that leads to clients or in creative work like making art? How long does it take until I achieve financial stability? When do I know to pivot my career to another art area or to a non-creative, non-art area in general? What does my changing body, my chronic pain, my cramping hands mean for my career? In 5 years, in 10 years, how will my body change? And what does it mean for me? Now, of course, a lot of those questions have answers, even concrete ones. For example, how long does it take to achieve financial stability? From what I have observed, I've heard, I've learned from people, tends to be 1 to 5 years, leaning more towards the 5 years one. How do I know when to pivot to another area of art or creativity or maybe a different career in general? Well, my visa is for 3 years, so that's at the end, I will have to reassess and see where I go from there. How do I find clients? You know, it's trials and errors, it's talking to people, it's sending out not hundreds, but thousands of cold emails and proposals and applying for things, being shameless, putting your work out there, keep talking about it, etc. How do I start my art career? I'm already starting. It is already starting. The wheels are already turning. The car is riding down the hill and I cannot stop it. I want to make this video because I hope to find others who are feeling like me. Lost, confused, is this the right path for me? What do I do? Hearing all these advice, feeling super overwhelmed, knowing that only doing it, practicing, and keep doing it is the only way forward. And of course, like, change when necessary. I ask questions like these not to receive advice or answers, but to share my feelings, to find camaraderie, and to record for myself in the future. Maybe in 10 years, I will look back and think, hey, younger Buffy, I have some answers for you. But I also do not want to leave the video on a more abstract note. So I want to outline 3 things that are more concrete to the questions of how do I start an art career. These steps are mostly more for me, but I hope that it is also helpful for someone out there. First is doing an audit of the situation, of what's happening, of what you want, what does an art career mean for you, what kind of areas of art are you interested in? Are you interested in becoming a writer, a musician? Are you interested in dance, ceramics, or painting, or selling, or becoming like a more managerial role, like an art director? Taking an audit also means like, where are you financially? Where are you location-wise? How do artists around you make money and build their own career? I think this first step is taking in information, is doing research, investigate, looking around you and observing the situation and observing your own situations and your feelings about having an art career and starting something for you. The second step is more to narrow down things. So if you vaguely know that you want to be a painter, you have to translate that a bit more into concrete steps, because I think we artists, we love dreaming, imagining, and opening our heart, but we are not the best at narrowing things down and making it concrete and step by step. So this is when you break things down. If you would like to be a painter, okay, great. What kind of painter? Gouache, watercolor, oil, you can say all of them if you want. And you may categorize yourself more in the sense of, I want to be a fine artist where I paint and then sell my original works or prints, instead of like a more illustrator approach of like, oh, people will commission me to paint something for them. This is where I need to acknowledge to myself, I need to give myself credit in terms of do something. I just applied for the freelance visa. I had never had a graphic recording job. I just applied for the visa with that in mind, and then I built my website towards that direction. I start making work, practice work, based on just videos I find on YouTube of events and long talks. And then I just start emailing people. I Googled conferences in Berlin in May or whatever, and then I just emailed all of the conferences. Obviously, success has been very far and few in between. Like I said before, I do not make enough income. I don't have a lot of clients, but I don't have zero. I have a structure, and I need to give myself credit that I know that I am confused and lost, but I have taken steps to ground myself and have taken steps to start. To my disabled and chronically ill colleagues, if it's the time to focus on your health first, please do. If finances are hard, there's no shame in chasing something more lucrative. As always, annoyingly, frustratingly, universally, the question of how do I start is answered with just start. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on the topic of how do I start an art career. The sun has already gone down and my ring light is definitely working its ass off. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on the question of how do I start an art career. If you are an artist who's at the beginning of their career, please share your thoughts, your worries, your anxieties, your struggles, both practical ones and philosophical ones. For artists who are already getting the ball rolling, making a consistent income, knowing where they're going, share with us how you felt in the beginning. I think sometimes that's what's lacking, is we feel like everyone has gotten figured out, but we don't know how many trials and errors and failures it's taken to get to those points. So I would love to hear how you felt in the beginning and what challenges you face. If you would like to look at my art, please feel free to visit my website and my social media at Buffie Nguyen. I mostly post on Instagram. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, embracing your creative heart.